Wayne Williams is the man who was convicted in connection with the Atlanta missing and murdered children case in the early 1980s. Now, he says that he helped create his own fate by the way he acted as the case unfolded. Williams, who rarely gives on-camera interviews, talked about his case at length with Channel 2's investigative reporter Mark Winnie.
Mark is here with a special assignment report based on that exclusive interview. Mark.
Monica, Don, we covered a number of topics in our interview, but we begin tonight with two facets of the conversation. How Wayne Williams says he has changed and why he says he was a, quote, idiot back then. And how the man who may be Georgia's most famous or infamous convicted murderer is serving his time.
They cannot kill our children and get away with it. We have got to stop them.
I think the fiber evidence was the hardest evidence to overcome.
The two young men, you were convicted of killing. Did you kill them?
No, I didn't. I never met either victim in my life.
Convicted in two of the cases known as Atlanta's missing and murdered, reportedly implicated in others, Wayne Williams still says he didn't do it. That much hasn't changed, though Williams maintains he has.
So this is not the same Wayne Williams people saw running around in the street making fun of the police. Not at all. This is a mature person who can look back and say in hindsight, you know, Wayne, you were an idiot back then, because I dug my grave just as much as anybody else by the way I acted.
For example?
Okay, for example, during the time when I first became a suspect, we had the little police chases and things of this type. And I never thought for any minute that I'd be here right now. To me, it was almost a game, because I said, well, heck, I hadn't done anything, you know, I'll just play with these people. But now, since I'm a little older and can look back on that, I can see how this may have given people the impression, look how he's acting, because they never knew Wayne Williams. And what Wayne Williams has done over the past 14 years, I have found out who I really am.
Williams is at Valdosta Correctional Institution in South Georgia. He is in the general population, and he told us works as a dorm orderly first thing in the morning. After that, he says much of his time is spent with the recreation department.
I officiate a lot of games, and right now I'm in the middle of coaching a softball season. We're undefeated so far. We're going to try and keep it that way.
We also encountered the man convicted in perhaps Georgia's most infamous murder case in another prison activity. At a prison revival service.
One of the things that I've done since I've been in prison, I'm pursuing a degree in the ministerial field at this time. And it's something I think that the death of my mother helped spur me on, because I found out that unless a person matures in all aspects of the life, you don't have a complete person. The way I was acting and all wasn't pleasing to God. So I said, Wayne, you got to make a change. And that's what I've done.
But we come back to the murders he is in prison for, where he still maintains his innocence. Now, you know, some of our viewers are probably saying he had his day in court. Jury found him guilty.
During the time that the case came about, the city was in a state of mass hysteria. And if I, myself, being a young black man, had been on that jury out of simple fear, I probably would have voted for conviction too out of ignorance.
But remember, the courts have so far upheld what the real jurors decided more than a dozen years ago. Not that Williams, who says he killed nobody, and a sizable team of lawyers have given up. Tomorrow, his continuing court efforts to get out of prison, and what he answered when I asked him, in effect, okay, if you say you didn't do all those killings, who did?
He's changed a great deal. All right, thank you, Mark.
Long.
Wayne Williams, the man convicted of two killings in connection with Atlanta's notorious missing and murder cases, says he didn't do it. But if he didn't, I say, if he didn't do it, who did? Well, that's a question investigative reporter Mark Winnie put to Williams in an exclusive interview.
Mark joins us now to continue his special assignment.
Well, Monica, Don, tonight we also find out about the court maneuverings. One of Williams' attorneys says he truly believes they will win, and reaction from prosecutors. But we begin with more of the Wayne Williams interview. Nighttime at a prison in Valdosta. There, inmate Wayne Williams maintains he sleeps well.
My conscience doesn't bother me like a lot of these inmates you talk to here in this institution. A lot of them have nightmares about what they did. Wayne Williams didn't kill anybody. He didn't hurt anybody. I sleep good.
He still denies the 2 murders of which he was convicted. He denies the rest of the more than 24 other killings considered part of Atlanta's missing and murdered case. But as long as that's the case, he faces an obvious question. Who killed the young men commonly referred to as the missing and murdered?
From what we have been able to gather in 14 years plus of investigation, there was never a single killer operating in Atlanta. From what we know, you had several groups of unrelated killings that happened at the same time. Some of them involved certain race hate groups that we know about. Some of them involved family or kin of some of the victims. Some of them involved sex groups, and some of them involved drug and criminal activities.
How could you possibly gather evidence to implicate 4 different separate groups?
Well, Mark, the thing about it, the evidence has always been in the police file.
There was nothing in it to suggest that we could prove a case on anybody else ever
In the police files.
in the police file.
Fulton County District Attorney Lewis Slayton prosecuted Wayne Williams.
I did say jigsaw puzzle, and I did say we'd put the pieces there where they could see the big picture.
Any new evidence, he's got a great group of lawyers, so anything he comes up with will be thoroughly evaluated.
And Williams and attorneys have been involved for some time in court proceedings involving something called a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, a legal challenge to his imprisonment. Lee Sexton says he's one of 5 lawyers working currently without pay on Williams' case.
In all the years that I've practiced, I have never seen a more egregious case where an innocent man has been in jail for some 12 years.
All right, but defense lawyers say that kind of stuff a lot. You're telling us that you think a judge this time will agree with you. You really think that?
I think based upon what was presented.
Yes or no?
Yes.
But I do not believe that there has been the presentation of evidence to warrant the overturning of the conviction.
Georgia Attorney General Mike Bauer's office represents the state on the habeas.
I personally and professionally believe that he committed the 2 murders of which he was convicted.
Wayne, will you appeal?
Despite the magnitude of the case in which he was convicted, Williams also referred to the possibility of parole one day. You may be the most famous or infamous person in a Georgia prison doing time for a murder conviction. Do you harbor realistic hope of parole?
I do, for 2 reasons. Number one, my case is still active, as you know, court-wise, and I didn't kill those people. And I think that a lot of the people, especially in Atlanta, realize certain things happened during my trial and during my case that were beyond anybody's control. And all I want is the chance to prove this. And number 2, I also realize now, after these 14.5 years, that my own actions did not help me. I have had the chance to mature as a person.
Parole Board spokesman Mike Light told me late this afternoon, given the attitude and makeup of the current parole board, the nature and notoriety of Williams' crime, and the expected public reaction, Wayne Williams should not expect parole anytime soon, if ever. We will be back tomorrow with more. This time, we'll talk about Wayne Williams and some of the relatives of the victims in the missing and murdered case.
All right, Mark, thank you. In a rare on-camera interview, convicted killer Wayne Williams talks about the families left behind by the victims in Atlanta's missing and murdered case.
Channel 2's investigative reporter Mark Winnie joins us now with a special assignment report, the Wayne Williams interview. Mark.
Well, Don, Monica, tonight we hear from 3 of the mothers left behind in the case. And we also hear about what Williams says has happened when he encountered relatives of victims in prison. Do you have to cope with a certain celebritude in the prison? Does that make you a marked man in any way?
Well, when I first entered the prison system, I would say it was somewhat like that, but over time it's tempered. And here at Valdosta, I keep a pretty low profile around here, so it doesn't bother me. They know me as just plain old Wayne.
Much of the rest of the world, of course, knows him as the man convicted of 2 killings and suspected of others among the cases known as Atlanta's missing and murdered. Still, Wayne Williams lives among the general population at Valdosta Correctional Institution with, we're told, no special security measures beyond what any inmate gets. And you may be surprised at some of those Williams indicates he has encountered.
There are several families that I keep in touch with right now that are involved in the case. And during my stay in the prison system, I run across nephews and brothers.
You're talking about families of the so-called missing and murdered.
That's correct. I've run across many since I've been in prison. And these people tell me all the time, Wayne, we don't believe you killed our family members, because I'll be honest with you, Mark, if these people for 1 minute thought that I was guilty of what they claimed, I wouldn't be alive right here today.
They'd kill you in prison.
That's right. That's right. And what this has done to me, it has given me more of an insight into the pain and tragedy that the victims have gone through throughout all this period of time.
I sent him up the street to get me a pack of cigarettes, and he never did get to the filling station because the people in the neighborhood knew him. You know, he was a Boy Scout, a little Cub Scout, and he sung in the chorus at school. He was a very artistic boy. He was smart.
Willie Mae Mathis, who lost son Jeffrey in 1981, says she is one of the victim relatives who has kept in touch with Williams in prison. She acknowledges that after the trial, she proclaimed Williams a guilty man. But now...
He didn't do it. He's smart, but he's not that smart to get away with 29, 31 murders, you know?
Oh, Patrick, he was a great kid. You know, he was very smart and intelligent, you know, and at the time, you know, we was all grieving over the children that had been missing, you know, and then all of a sudden, it hit home.
Today, we also met Sheila Baltazar, who told us she was stepmother to 11-year-old victim Patrick Baltazar, and she told us,
I feel like the Wayne Williams did not kill my son. I believe that the killers are still out there.
You're not saying he didn't kill anybody?
I'm not saying that.
I'm going to always believe that he picked Curtis up.
Catherine Leach says her son, Curtis Walker, was a special child, that she's not sure if Williams killed him, but she believes he killed at least some of the young men. We played for her portions of the Williams interview broadcast earlier this week.
The type of man he is and the way he speaks on the TV. And the type of person that I am, that I can see that there's some lies that are coming out of his mouth.
You don't believe him? If you were sitting at home, do you think you might be looking at this person on the screen and saying, if he's innocent, how can he talk so calmly about it?
For the reason that I am innocent.
Williams was charged and convicted in the cases of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. Now, if I understood D.A. Lewis Slayton correctly, Patrick Baltazar's case was cited as an allegedly similar situation in court. The Curtis Walker case was closed by police and attributed to Williams. The death of Jeffrey Lamar Mathis is one of a handful among the 29 or so missing and murdered that does not fit under any of those categories. Both Ms. Baltazar and Ms. Leach, by the way, indicated they are not among those who have relatives who have encountered Williams in prison.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you very much.
The death of Jeffrey Lamar Mathis is one of a handful among the 29 or so missing and murdered that does not fit under any of those categories. Both Ms. Baltazar and Ms. Leach, by the way, indicated they are not among those who have relatives who have encountered Williams in prison.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mark. John Pruitt is in the Satellite News Center with a look at some of the all-new stories coming up at 6. John.
Thank you, Monica. Coming up...